Okay, so today we are in week 2. The topic of this week is oracy and the OSF. Okay, so before we begin, just a quick reminder about this week's two required readings, which are related to the OSF, that is the Oracy Skills Framework. These two readings are foundational for us, our assessment task one. So I highly recommend you to engage with these two readings as much as possible. And as we try to bring in our critical thinking, try to think about how the readings are relevant to our awareness and our teaching practices, and also how they contribute to or aid the discussions that we form in our assessment tasks. And in today's tutorial, firstly, we're going to review some of the key concepts of this week, and then we will analyze the linguistic features of a spoken text, and then we will talk a little bit about how we can get prepared for our interview. And before we begin, just a quick reminder about the aims of our tutorial sessions. A tutorial is a space for everyone to exchange ideas, experiences, and insights in real time. It is a good idea to actively participate in discussions. Also, the tutorial is a great platform for you to ask questions with regard to the readable content, the required readings, as well as the assessment tasks. So I will try to always spare the last 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And if you have any questions throughout the tutorial, feel free to stop me and jump in and ask your questions. Alternatively, you can post your question on the Q&A forum on the Moodle site if you think the question is also relevant to other students. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Today's topic is oracy or oracy skill. So what does it mean by oracy? Oracy refers to the ability to communicate effectively through spoken language. And the term oracy actually encompasses both speaking and listening abilities. It is a term coined by Wilkinson in the 60s to parallel previously established concepts of literacy and numeracy. Wilkinson argued that spoken language deserved equal recognition in the education system. So in a nutshell, oracy refers to the ability to speak and listen, which is parallel to literacy, that is the ability to read and write, as well as numeracy, the ability to do basic mathematics. So why is teaching and learning oracy so important? According to Vygotsky, a Russian educational psychologist who is well known for his sociocultural theory, proposed that language learning and cognitive development are intertwined, meaning that language learning does not only happen on its own, actually it happens along cognitive development. And by acquiring and engaging with spoken language, we are not only enhancing our language competence, but we are also making sense of the world. We use our spoken language to construct knowledge, to express our emotions, needs, and thoughts, to get ourselves understood by others. We also use spoken language to do reasoning, to develop arguments, and reach consensus with others. So spoken language is a valuable tool for us to engage with the world and to interact with the people around us. Research has also shown that oracy skills is an indicator of learners' educational achievement, social confidence, and occupational success. In other words, the better oracy skills we have, the more likely we are able to succeed in academic and occupational settings and build stronger social connection. Okay, now let's take a step back and reflect on to what extent oracy is incorporated into our own L2 classroom. Try to think about, in your teaching context and country, what recognition does L2 oracy receive in comparison to literacy and numeracy? Also, if you think oracy requires more recognition in your L2 classroom, what actions will you take and what potential challenges will you face? Okay, so does anyone want to share your ideas? Maybe let's focus on the first question first. So, to what extent oracy is incorporated or valued in your L2 classroom?
Well, this is Nina here, and I can share my experience on this.
Yes, please, Nina.
Well, first I can compare my own experience because I'm originally not from Australia. I'm from Belarus.
Right.
And when I had English lessons there, it was all about grammar. Basically, we did maybe, well, we were reading, we were writing, we were translating a lot, we were learning about grammar, nouns, verbs, tenses. But we probably oracy was at the end of the list. So we couldn't really speak. And even when I had my school exams, or, well, basically we had to learn, memorize, I would say, memorize a number of topics. For example, London, I don't know, theatre, my family, about myself, and we had to memorize it by heart, really. And then you just talk about this. Yes, we had some questions that we needed to answer, but it wasn't real speaking as such. So here in Australia, for example, when I was asking my students, and I did it last year and this year, at the start of the semester, what skills they would like to improve most, and it's speaking always comes as number one. Always comes as number one. And it was also interesting for me, especially because, for example, if I need to teach a reading and writing unit, and then they say we want to speak, so it's clearly made me aware of it. Like I'm aware of this now, and I'm trying to make, even if I teach very low class where they cannot really speak much, they're still learning vocabulary, they grammar, all of this, but I still try to include a lot of dialogues. And I ask them at least they can read dialogues. One person says this, another person repeats this, and they practice it so that they can maybe learn some phrases and use them in their everyday conversations. And I do a lot of questions and answers, talk to a partner about well, obviously I give the questions or I write them on the whiteboard and they talk between themselves. And usually I even start my lessons with a few questions that I just write on whiteboard, and I say, okay, discuss your weekend or do this. Of course, it depends on their level of English, how much they can produce. But even if they make mistakes, even if their speech is not yet developed, it still gives them more confidence and opportunity to speak with someone. And I know that some learners are not very happy about this because they think that speaking with another student who makes mistakes won't really help them. But it really helps because they don't have many opportunities to speak outside their classroom. And one teacher cannot speak to 20 students. So it's much better if they can speak to themselves in groups, pairs, and then maybe as a whole class answering some questions when I check their work. So I do try to spend more time on teaching ORC at the moment.
Thank you so much, Nina. I'm so glad that you are actually incorporating the needs of your learners and you're trying to implement more overseas skills development into your classroom. And also, like you said, along the way, you are experiencing some difficulties and some challenges because of the big class size, and also you're not able to attend or give attention to each student in terms of developing their overseas skills. So thank you so much. So does anyone would like to share your experiences as well? Or do you share similar experiences as a learner, or as a teacher and a learner?
Yeah, Queenie, I have a similar experience to Nina. Like I'm teaching online at the moment, like through various platforms. And all of my students, I mean, essentially because East Asia focuses on grammar and reading and writing and oracy, it pretty much keeps me in a job because most of my students are upper intermediate or advanced and they just want to practice speaking. So my lessons are just conversation. They don't want to get into grammar. They don't want to get into anything. They just want to talk and practice speaking, practice listening. Some of them specifically come to me or to other Australians because they want to get used to the Australian accent. But pretty much 98% are there to practice oracy, to practice speaking and listening. So there's obviously a huge gap, and I've often wondered why that hasn't been addressed. I think it is slowly changing in China and Korea, Japan. That's predominantly where my students are from. I think it is changing, heading in the oracy direction, but still a long way to go, I think, in those school systems in those countries.
Thank you so much, Mick, for sharing. So, Mick, you were not here last time, so can you please just briefly talk about your teaching context?
Yeah, sure. So my wife and I just got back from a couple of years teaching in Turkey. The visa situation became too difficult, so we're back in Australia. Plus, we have some family issues with my wife's parents. That's all inconsequential. So at the moment, yeah, I'm in Australia. I've got a little business, and I'm teaching online to keep myself in the whole teaching game. And I thought I'd use this time to do my master's. So I'm teaching on platforms like Cambly and italki and Preply.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you, Mick. So it looks like we have Nina and Mick who are working with ESL and ELD learners. What about the others? Can you share your own teaching context and experiences? Yes, Makiko.
Hi, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
I'm Makiko. My teaching context is a Japanese high school in Japan. And I feel that spoken language isn't given as much importance as literacy and numeracy because, especially in high school English education, many students study English mainly to pass university entrance examinations. So the main goal of learning English is often to achieve high scores on written tests, which mainly focus on reading. So, speaking English is not important for them. So,
Yeah, thank you, Makiko, for your sharing. Well, it's quite interesting to see the differences between EFL learners. Like in Makiko's context, you're working with Japanese students who mainly want to address um, high school exams and university entry exams. So they prioritize literacy over oracy. Whereas in Nina and mixed situations, the students just want to learn oracy skills. Yes, so it's interesting to see the differences in different teaching contexts. Yeah, thank you, Makiko. And so just now back to raise your hand.
Yeah, no, I'm coming from a very different angle than the last two or three speakers. I'm a primary school teacher, so I predominantly teach kids from kindergarten to year six. The demographic of our school I've noticed is changing, so I've had to fight really hard to actually put in oracy skills or have them formally recognised as part of our programs, which is hilarious because they just assume that kids can talk, they can listen, they can do all those things, but as more languages are being integrated into our classrooms in our town and things like that, I'm finding you have to be more explicit with your teaching, especially little ones who, we've got a 5-year-old at the moment who we don't know a lot about him, but he obviously hasn't been given the opportunity to talk more than 1 or 2 words in either of his languages in his home. So it's going to be really interesting to see his development along the way to explicitly teach him English language communication skills and to be able to communicate with his classmates as well. So I tested 2 years ago our kindergarten cohort on their oral language skills, so their listening and speaking skills, and the results were quite shocking at how low they were. So definitely this is something I'm quite passionate about, to teach them at a young age, because if you can't speak and listen, the other things are irrelevant. So I do have to fight for that quite a lot at my school, but anyway, that's how it is.
Yeah, thank you, Beck. So you kind of touch upon how explicit we should teach oracy. And according to research, actually, oracy is taken for granted in the classroom because teachers assume that learners can speak, can listen automatically. However, research shows that explicit instruction is needed to scaffold them along the way when they're developing their oracy skills. However, this is not the focus of today's topic. Later on, as we progress along the subject, we will learn how we can design the classroom activities to scaffold and support our learners in developing their oracy skills. Okay, so thank you so much. So because we still have some more discussions to go, so let's quickly move on. So for the second question here, I think you can take some time to think about it. Regarding the actions that you take, I think some of you just touched upon about this as well. You talk about you are incorporating more dialogues in your classroom, more conversations in your classrooms. That's really nice because in our assessment task 2, we need to propose or design some classroom activities and tasks to help our learners develop their oracies and also to overcome some of the difficulties and challenges that they are facing. And also regarding the potential challenges, I remember Nina just said that you are experiencing some challenges as well because the students think that when they are outside the classroom, they may not have the same amount of opportunity for them to practice their spoken language. And so, when we are implementing this classroom activities, inevitably we face some challenges. For example, we may also experience the students who shows reluctance about practicing the dialogues with the classmates because of low confidence at the beginning. And we face some contextual constraints. For example, the institutions where we work prioritize literacy or oracy skills, and just like Makiko just shared. Okay, so for these 2 questions, I think you can think about them and potentially answer them when we are addressing assessment task 1, 2, and even assessment task 3. Okay. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at OSF. So what does it mean by OSF? According to the research conducted at the University of Cambridge, oracy skills can be categorized into 4 main categories, including linguistic, cognitive, physical, social, and emotional, and cultural. And today the focus will be on the linguistic feature, and then we will cover the remaining 3 strengths in the upcoming topics. Okay, so under the linguistic strand, there are 4 components, namely vocabulary, language variation, structure, and rhetorical techniques. So it's quite interesting to find that actually these 4 components are not unique to spoken language. We can actually find these components in written language as well. And I think these 4 components are quite self-explanatory. But there is one thing that I would like to draw your attention to, that is structure. As you can see, we put the word discourse and genre under structure. So what does discourse mean? Actually, this word has 2 meanings, and it is a technical term used in the linguistic field. So basically, discourse refers to a text. It can either be a spoken text or a written text. And secondly, discourse also refers to how the languages or how the sentences are combined together so that the meaning flows logically and smoothly. And as working teachers, I think the terms that we often use are coherence and cohesion. So at this stage, just don't worry about the technical term discourse. I guess an easier word for us to remember is structure or coherence or cohesion. And for genre, genre actually refers to the type of discourse, or in a more layman term, that is text type. So talking about spoken text, some examples of genre can be a story, a conversation, or a lecture. So genre basically refers to the type of spoken text or written text. So of course, in today's topic, we're talking about spoken text. Again, don't worry about these two technical terms at the moment. What we need to focus on is the structure or organization. And in order to enhance the smoothness and the flowiness of our speech, we can use some, cohesive devices such as in addition, or however, or in conclusion, in summary, etc., as well as signposting languages such as firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, to help us to glue or to cohere our sentences together so as to make so as to make the whole text flow more smoothly and logically. Besides that, I would also like to draw your attention to the context. Actually, how we use our spoken language very much depends on the context and also on who we are talking to. Let's say vocabulary. So imagine if we are giving a conference presentation, obviously we use more specialist academic language. And if we are just talking among friends, we will use more colloquialism and slangs. And in terms of register, register actually refers to the level of formality. So whether we are using formal or informal language. Imagine if we are attending a job interview and we are talking to the interviewers. Obviously, we use a more formal tone in the language. And then, in terms of structure, so if we are giving a speech, obviously the speech will be more well structured. And if we are just talking to our family at home, the conversations are normally more loosely structured or less structured. And in terms of rhetorical techniques, imagine if a speaker is giving a TED talk, if he wants to draw attention of the audience, he may use more metaphors. Or if someone is doing a stand-up comedy, he may use more humor and irony. However, in our daily conversations, or if we're talking to our superiors, our teachers, normally we don't use humor or metaphor as much as in the situations that I just mentioned before. Okay, so in conclusion, it's always the context that determines how we use our spoken language. Okay, so in the next section, I would like you to discuss or analyze a speech given by a beginning Burmese student. So in this activity, I would like you to work in pairs or groups and analyze the strengths and weaknesses of this Burmese student speech in terms of the features that we talked about just now. So you can choose one to two features that are relevant to your target learners. For example, you can focus on vocabulary and grammar, or if you like, you can also focus on structure and the rhetorical techniques. Okay, and more importantly, after analyzing the speech, I would like you to think about the similarities that these Burmese students share with your target learners. So in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, what do you think your learners and this Burmese students share? And I would like you to do me a favor by quickly indicate your target learner type in the chat. For example, just now Beck, you mentioned that you're working with young learners at the age of 5. So please let me know. So you can put want in the chat. And For example, Makiko-san, you're working with high school students, so probably you're working with number 2 adolescent learners. So I would like to put you in a group that you can work with the peers that share the similar context with you, so that we can have a more fruitful discussion. Okay, so let me quickly take a look at our chat. Okay, so let me see that. So we have hello. Okay. So, okay, so thank you so much. For cassette, you're working with Chinese learners of English. So may I know the level of education or the learning context? So are you working with adolescent learners or adult learners?
At the moment, I'm working with adolescents and adults, but
Okay.
working online, I've just begun that, and I'm hoping after I finish my degree here, I will return to China and probably work in middle school. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Good to know. Thank you, Cassette. Okay, so it looks like so we have two big groups. So we have students working with adult learners as well as adolescent learners. And then for Tanya, so you're the only one working with younger learners. Yes, so let's see. Okay, so I think we'll quickly put you in pace, and I will give you 8 to 10 minutes to discuss these two questions and to analyze the speech of the Burmese student. And you can access the audio clip on the Moodle book of this topic. So feel free to to get your Moodle book open to access the audio clip of the speech of the Burmese student. Okay, so now I think I will pair up Mick and also so we'll have Nick and also Nina. So you will work in pairs, and then back in Cosette, you will be in the same group, and then Yuki and Makiko, you are in the same group. You and Lisa, you're in the same group. And then for Tanya, so may I just wonder if you would like to join any of the pairs that I mentioned? So maybe you would like to join the group of adult learners or adolescent learners. Hello, Tanya. Are you with me? Okay, so I've just seen Grace. So Grace just joined in. So Grace, can you hear me well? Hello, Grace. Okay, never mind. So Tanya, maybe I will just put you in the group of 2 and Lisa. Is it okay for you? Okay, thank you. So I will give you 8 to 10 minutes to do the discussions. Okay, so please bear with me while I'm putting you in groups. Okay, so let me stop sharing first.
Hi, Queenie. This is
Yes,
Grace.
great. Hi, Grace.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm driving at the moment. That's why I cannot say anything.
Okay,
Yes,
no
go
problem.
ahead.
Yes, safety
You'll
first.
be-
Okay, no worries. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I've put you in pairs or in groups. So now please go ahead to the breakout rooms and start the discussions. Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Just two.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Just two.
Okay.
Is it right?
I think it's just two of us, yeah.
Really? Sorry. We are Japanese.
I'm working right now, but before I came to UW, I was working in high school for 1 year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, right. But
And
now,
also,
are you
yeah.
in Japan or no?
Yes, I'm in Japan
Ah.
online, taking this course
So you
online.
mean online student?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard. So
Yeah.
hard.
But I switched from on campus to now I'm a
Oh,
distance student, so I'm very worried about numbers.
yeah.
But Yuki-san did well, so
Okay.
I will follow you.
No, I will follow you.
and
And I just finished topic 2 Moodle book today, and I'm still confusing. I don't think I understand what kind of assignment I have to do. I've read the instruction, but it's very complicated.
Yeah. And how I don't know how I should have an interview about I mean that questions.
Yes, question,
Yeah,
yes.
So-
I read the question. What kind of question?
So
I
do
don't
yeah,
know.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I'm so confusing.
we have to relate with
Yes.
like oracy or like four strands.
Yes.
But I'm not
So-
sure. So please tell me, for example.
Yes,
Give me.
Yes, please give me for example, I'm really confused and I'm really worried. Oh, I'm glad you feel the same way.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay.
But what should I?
Maybe let me share the screen. Can you see the screen?
Oh, great. Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much.
So I think both of us already listened to this audio clip while doing the Moodle book.
Yeah. I listened.
And then we need to discuss
About
how we can improve. Maybe talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this man in the audio.
I think vocabulary. So did you listen to the Amanda's like Amanda's?
Yes.
Yeah. And she said he did well.
Yes, she said he did very well.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe he did well, but I took some notes, but my note and Amanda's answer did very different.
Yeah. Me too.
That makes me worried.
Yeah. Because she said he did well, but I thought, for example, the use of the verb is incorrect.
I thought so too.
But I think his strength is a phrase like came back home or catch a train.
Yes.
It's a good, I think.
I think so too. And maybe the place name, go to the bank.
Yeah.
Catch a train is a good phrase.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Grammar, I noticed he didn't use past tense.
Yeah, past tense or singular, third person singular. It's like
I'm not good with that too.
I'm also not good at. It's difficult for
I
me.
always forget.
Me too. And also, if he could use a discourse marker, so first or second, I think his English will improve more and more. So maybe discourse or genre. I'm always confused. Discourse and genre is a very.
Yes, me too. I don't really know the difference between the two, and yes, because written like for essay, we say discourse marker is like in addition to, however, therefore, and maybe in spoken language it's a little bit different, so it's a little bit confusing. But if I have to interview my target learner is just only one high school student, because I'm not working right now. I can target only one high school student. Now 17. And if I'm going to interview him, maybe I would like to, maybe easier for me to focus on structure, like a discourse marker, the flow of the story. Which feature will you focus on for your target learners?
I'm not sure, but I think maybe the Japanese student, focus teach grammar and vocabulary repeatedly. So maybe their strength is grammar and vocabulary. I think. So
I think so too. I agree.
So discourse. So I want to focus, but I'm thinking discourse.
And one of the reasons why I thought about focusing on structure, maybe a good idea, is because on this week's Moodle book explained different linguistics like a vocabulary and I don't know. Yes, many different things I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, and I'm not sure if I can, I don't know, work on these.
Yeah. Me too. So structure is like structure is like discourse and genre.
Yes. So I think, if I'm not misunderstood, I think Queenie says this maybe man can, I don't know, improve using discourse marker like a first tree, secondary, and so on. So I thought maybe this is a good idea for me to also focus on my learner.
So like you will focus on discourse, for example, discourse marker or
maybe. I think Japanese high school students maybe sometimes good at like say words. He went to bed. He had a good night's sleep, and like a series of events. But there is not connected like conjunction.
That's true.
So maybe it's maybe nice to teach that.
And I think I'm not pronounce rhetorical technique is another stage. Like it's a very complicated.
It's very complicated.
So maybe I won't choose.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. So does anyone want to start off first? So we have Yuki and Makiko. So maybe can we invite Yuki and Makiko to share your discussion results?
Yes, can I share? We talk about the discourse markers.
Yeah.
Sorry. We both agree that the man in the audio used a good vocabulary and talk about the story, but he didn't use the like connector conjunctions like first, secondary. So maybe we both of us are targeting high school students, and Japanese high school students often lacks these like conjunctions and just telling that the event separately. So to make that whole story more like to make a better flow of the story, maybe we can teach these tongues.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Yuki, for sharing.
Thank you.
And then for True and Lisa and Tanya's group, you're also working with young and adolescent learners. So what are your observations? So we have True, Lisa, and Tanya.
So we talked about, it's Tanya, hi. We talked about his very short phrases and lots of breaks and a monotonous kind of tone. So making it interesting for a listener, teaching chunks of words that would go together, and working on fluency. And there's a lot of connectives that he could use as well in his improvement in time connectives, first, and there was a bit of pronoun confusion, between he and she, and chopping off the ends of words.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. So what are some similarities that these Burmese students share with your own learners? You're working with primary school students, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you, just relate the experiences of this Burmese student to your own students as well?
Yeah, it's very common. And I that was an adult learner, obviously, and children would come with different sets of experiences, but definitely very similar. I mean, I guess that man would be quite early in his learning, although you can follow his story, what he's saying, but it's just improving the vocabulary, getting them talking more. And I guess with young learners, giving them those visuals to be able to talk about, and lots of time connectives, and those the basic vocab working first. So definitely to young learners as well.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so lastly, can we have, sorry, we still have two more groups. We have Beck and Cassette. So we have Beck and Cassette.
Hi, we talked about that his his vocab was quite textual. He didn't have random words thrown in, even though it was quite stilted and monotoned. It was still relevant to what he was trying to say. He had quite conversational grammar, which was also very stilted. It'd be interesting to know the Burmese structure of text, because at the moment I'm studying Gujarati and Punjabi and Fijian, and they have a different order of words in their particular spoken text. So not knowing what Burmese students and what L2 interference we have, it'd be interesting to find out. He was very sequenced in what he said. He said this and this and this and this, but then I listened to the bit about Amanda, how he had cards and everything, so that might have helped his sequencing. So I do a lot of that in my own classroom, with talking with different pictures and things like that with the kids, and so that's how it would working with my students. So yeah, sorry, Cassette, I just took over. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Beck. Thanks, Cassette. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think that pretty much covers what we discussed, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So it seems like Beck and Tanya, you're already thinking about the classroom activities that you will use to scaffold your learners. You mentioned about visuals. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's great observations. Thank you. And lastly, we have Nick and Nina.
I'll jump in. I'm sure Nina's got something to say, but I really enjoyed Beck's comments because it was very easy to find the weaknesses in our learner, but we tried to focus on finding some strengths, and Beck outlined a couple, which was nice. I think that's a big part of like helping people develop their oracy. It's connected so closely with a person's confidence. So if we can build their confidence, then they will feel more comfortable to express themselves verbally. So in terms of things that he did well, yeah, the structure needed a lot of work, but there was a basic story that followed. A limited vocabulary, but he did relatively well in conveying. But it was hard, to be honest. He's at a very basic level, so you had to look hard for strengths. But yeah, I mean, if Nina wants to mention any of the weaknesses that we noted, I'll leave that up to her.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meet. You have such a good empathy for your learners. That's wonderful. And so, Dina, do you have anything to add?
Well, I agree with all the participants that this learner was, well, at elementary level, but yeah, definitely a beginner, and his speech had all the characteristics for this type of learner. So he still he still only uses present tense. He doesn't use any s's for he or she. He mixes pronouns. His vocabulary is quite limited as well, and the same as with grammar. And when he says, somebody already mentioned that he omits the final consonants as well. So it's very similar to many of the students that I have from Vietnamese or Burmese background.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for sharing your insights and ideas. Okay, so that's good. So I think the last question here, when we talk about the similarities that the Burmese students share with your learners, I think it's something that we need to address as well, or we need to talk about in our assessment task 1. So I think I'm providing a good segue for our next slide. So let's go to our next slide here. Okay, so let's talk about how we can get prepared for the interview for assessment task 1. So as we mentioned, our assessment task 1 is very much around the OSF, that is the Oracy Skills Framework. In particular, today we talk about the first strand, that is the linguistic strand. And we also talk about the 4 components under the linguistic strand. And when we are trying to ask questions to our interviewee in the interview, we can come up with relevant questions with regard to the components of the linguistic strand, just as like what we did just now. We can talk about the vocabulary, the grammar, the structure, as well as the rhetorical techniques. And I think it's also very important to think about the context in which your learners need oracy skills. For example, like some of you said, you're working with high school students, so their priority is to sit for university entry exam, or sit for the standardized English tests such as IELTS and TOEFL, or for some others, like for the adult learners, the purpose of developing their oracy is to deal with the situations in the workplace, to communicate with their customers, for example. Or for some adult learners, the goal of developing their oracy is just to travel around the world and to make friends from different countries. And then for younger learners, they may need spoken language to express their ideas and needs to their teachers and their peers, as some of you just shared your experiences. And so I think try to think about the context beforehand. So this context determines how the spoken language should be used and in what way, as teachers, we can scaffold them in developing their oracy. Okay, So because of the time constraint, originally I planned to put you in groups as well to brainstorm some ideas about what type of interview questions that we would come up with for the interview. But I think because of the time limit, we're not going to do that today. But I will like to give you some quick reminders or some example questions that you can take reference from. First of all, we're doing a semi-structured interview, which means we can have some questions ready beforehand. For example, we can have drafted 10 to 15 questions. But then because it's semi-structured, meaning we can modify our questions along the way, depending on what responses our interviewee gives us. And also, this interview serves two purposes. On one hand, it is a self-evaluation. So we will talk more about this next week. So we will give a self-evaluation grid for the interview to fill out with regard to their speaking and listening ability. And at the same time, while we are interacting with the interviewee during the interview, we're also assessing their speaking and listening proficiency. So this interview serves as both a self-evaluation as well as a teacher evaluation. And here are some example questions, and they're just for your reference. You can come up with your own questions as well. So some example questions that I can think of include, in what situations do you need to use speaking and listening skills in English? Assess the context and the purpose of developing the oracy. And another example question can be, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you think your speaking skill is? And I think using the scale is really useful because for some learners or interviewees, it is hard for them to articulate at what point or what are the stages they are at along the learning continuum. So it would be good to give them a guidance if we give them a scale of 1 to 5 so that they can just quickly pinpoint, oh, I am 2 or I am 4 or 5. Okay, so that will be easier for them to articulate their responses. And also, as mentioned, always relate or link the questions to the OSF, including the 4 strands and also the subcategories under each strands. For example, what do you think you do well in speaking? Or precisely, what do you think you do well in vocabulary or in grammar, etc. And I think it's always useful to ask follow-up questions. Can you tell me more? Can you elaborate on your responses? And it's also a good idea to ask them to give you examples. Usually they unpack more details when they give you the examples. Okay. Yes, so more specific guidance on the interview will be provided next week. And in the meantime, start getting in touch with your interviewee and start scheduling for the interview. The assessment task one is due on the 10th of April, which is 1 month from now, exactly 1 month from now. And as I said last time, it is a good idea to schedule your interview for week 4 because the assessment task is due on week 6. So it's good for you to give yourself around 2 weeks time to write up the report. And also start reading the template and also the consent form and the rubrics that are provided under assessment task 1 on the Moodle site. And we also got some questions about using L1, potentially with the beginning learners, whether L1 is permitted during the interview. The answer is yes, but the preference is we should conduct the entire interview in English, and also we should ask all the questions in English. And if we find that the interviewee is presenting difficulties in understanding some of the questions, then we can help them by translating the questions into the L1. and they should answer some of the questions in English as well. So they shouldn't be complete beginners with zero English. So they should be able to at least answer some of the questions in English. And in the event that we find them, they have difficulties in articulating their responses in detail, then they can switch back to their L1 in answering the questions. Okay, so going forward, as usual, please do the subject readings for the next topic, and also start planning for assessment task 1 and start brainstorming the interview questions. Okay, so I think that's all for today, and I understand that some of you have the next tutorial session starting at 5:30. Okay, so please feel free to shoot off for the next tutorial session. And if you have any questions, you can stay behind and we can discuss them further. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I will see you next week.
Thank you, Queenie. See you next week.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a lovely afternoon. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.